Hey everyone, it's Jeannie here, and today I am so glad to be joined by platinum-selling writer and recording artist Dante Bowe. Recently released his sophomore album, Circles,
Yeah.
and just doing a whole bunch of things. Everywhere I look, I see you and your name and your ministry just coming forth. Dante, thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yes. Well, I've been jamming to your album since release. And because I knew I was going to talk to you, I wanted to listen to it again. And man, it's just so good. I feel like, um, when I first heard it, I thought, how come other music doesn't sound this real? There's an authenticity to you that's just so, it's unique, it's precious. I think it's to be treasured. I think that's why it's even connecting with people. Let's start there. What makes Dante come to the music industry and the Christian world? Because you know how it all is. There's always trying to put you into something else that fits. What makes you be you, uniquely you?
You know, I've been through a lot. I've gone through a lot. I've experienced a lot, Um, just yeah, I think like my story is so potent that when I am put in a position to be creative or write or sing or anything like that, all of my journey comes forth. And not that I'm saying like I live in the past, but I'm saying like all those past things made me who I am today. And I think a lot of times I just write about it. And that's the realness I think that people feel.
Yeah, and people connect with that. That's really what people connect with. I'm not sure why, we're always trying to do a formula because
Yeah,
people connect with authenticity. But for those
100%.
people who don't know who you are, let's kind of start with your testimony. I know that your grandparents were ministers, and you grew up in the South, but I want to know, how did Dante come to Jesus? When did Jesus become real to you? Because there's cultural faith, and then there's authentic faith. So when did that happen for you?
Like when did Jesus become real to me?
Yeah, to you. Yeah.
Um, uh, I guess Jesus has always been real to me. I think I've
Amazing.
always um, had a relationship with Jesus and always felt his presence and kind of like, even when I didn't recognize it, I guess I always just assumed that I'm like, this is Jesus, this is God. But I'd say when I was 16 years old, I had like my first encounter that kind of made me want to live different, like and be different and serve him like wholeheartedly, not, and so I think when I was 16, that encounter kind of changed me, um, or started the process at least of change. And I started going to church on my own, and I started like, just doing things on my own. It wasn't like my grandparents' faith or anything like that. It became like my faith. But yeah, we growing up in North Carolina, in a Christian community, but my parents weren't really saved. And so I lived in the house with my parents. They were drug dealers. And they were good parents. They did everything they could for me and my brother. And they sold drugs, they said, because they wanted to have us to have a better life and all this stuff. So I was raised around that, was abused in the church, and that, caused a lot of confusion sexually, like my sexuality, what I believe and what I don't believe. And then that was a journey, and even up into my 20s, just kind of like always like the Lord renewing my mind and renewing my heart. And yeah, so that's like my testimony and just where I come from, and deeper than me being a country boy from North Carolina.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are the things that make me who I am, you know, the good and the bad times.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I know the album Circles is, you pay homage to your family. And I love that because I feel like, although society is always painting a picture of family, especially with people of color, it's beautiful to see that what you've been through, you're able to use that in the album. and use it to pay to even to honor your family, you know, despite
100%.
what you've been through. Talk a little bit about that and why that was important for you to do.
Yeah, because my family is everything to me. So my mom and dad were very present parents. Like, so like every game I had, when I want to go to the studio, if when I wanted to just start going to church on my own, they were just so supportive. Would take me, would drop me off. Like they wanted to see me win truly, and that was just such a blessing because I know everyone's not as fortunate to have that kind of support system. And my grandparents were even more supportive, and just my brother and everybody was just a very key piece to making this album. They were very like prominent pieces just because they were the ones to carry me through for the most part my whole life. So yeah, I honor my family. I lost my grandfather in January 2020, and I wrote one of my singles, Voice of God, I wrote in dedication to my grandfather because he was such a strong man, and he broke the mold for our family, was the first man to ever acquire wealth and all this stuff. So it was just, it's a very important project, especially with what's going on in the world right now. Feels like family is really important.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, God is helping us refocus
Come
on
on.
the things that matter.
Yeah.
Everyone dealt with grief, I feel like, in this season. I literally don't know one person who wasn't touched by grief in some shape or form. But then you have songs on the album that are about like gratitude and joy and things that I feel like, I mean, I'm a pastor's wife, and most of the people that we pour into, they're like my generation, millennials, or and I find it really hard for our generation to kind of get out of the funk. Talk about wanting to make a song like joy, like that you're like, despite what's happening in the world, this is what I'm going to redirect my focus on. How do you get to that point?
Yeah, for me, it's about acknowledging the blessings. Like sometimes it's easy to acknowledge, defeat, or the doubt, anxiety, and fear, and all that stuff. But for me, when I was making this record, I wanted to acknowledge the good things. It's like it made me want to be grateful. Loss made me want to look at who I have left, and defeat made me want to look at victories, and just acknowledge the victories instead of looking at the defeat. And joyful came out of that place for sure, and a lot of other songs as well just came out of that place of just I know this is what we see, but think about all of the things that God has done for us, and all of the ways he's made, and how many times have he brought us out, and and it's just, you get overwhelmed by it when you think about it. And so, that'll make you joyful when you're refocused and you look at all the blessings that you just don't deserve. And then, that God is just faithful enough to be, everything, our provider, our source. Even in the middle of 2020, he was our source. Yeah. And there's so many things I could talk about in 2020 where I was like, he was such a comfort, so.
Yeah, I feel like we all have a little bit of PTSD coming out of 2020. And God, if we've made it here and we can still smile and be joyful, it's all God, for real. You have an incredible testimony. You went from homelessness to platinum artist. What advice do you have for those that might want to throw in the towel in their season of homelessness, or hopelessness or wilderness?
Just don't give up. I get cried, but just don't give up on anything, no matter where you are. If you're homeless, even people that have a lot want to give up right now. And money doesn't make you, feel inspired and give you endurance. I think ultimately I would just say, don't give up, no matter where you are, no matter what you have, that if God said it, he can perform it. And it may not be, in our timing, it may not feel like it's going to ever happen. But I just firmly believe that, if you when you seek him and you seek peace and love and joy and long suffering, and you focus on that, I feel like naturally it's going to happen for you. It's going to happen for you. One of my old leaders used to say, Eddie James, one of my favorite people. He used to say, order follows glory. Glory follows order. Sorry, glory follows order. And just like once you get those things in order, like surely the glory of the Lord will show up. Mm-hmm. Those priorities, those things set. Like I had to like tell myself, like look myself in the mirror, like, no, you're called, no, you're chosen. There is no, what if, there's no plan Bs. The Lord has you. He's more than able. And you start speaking those things. And I feel like glory follows suit. Yeah. So yeah,
that's spiritual warfare. That's spiritual warfare.
100%.
Yeah. And that's what you're engaging in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazing. You look at your life now and you're like, dang, like God did all that. You're not where you used to be in homelessness and things like that, where you're doing interviews, you're on billboards in Times Square. Like, come on.
Yeah, I do look at my life and sometimes I'm overwhelmed by it. I didn't want any of this. I really wanted to make music and make people feel how I felt when I heard certain artists that kind of helped me through seasons. And I was like, it'd be just cool to be that for somebody. And that's what I want still, even though all the success is happening and stuff. And I really, really do, I am really grateful that God allowed me to be who I am and do what I do. And it wasn't easy getting here, but it's still like overwhelming looking at it like, oh man, this is bigger than I thought. Lord Jesus, yeah. But I'm graced for it. Yeah, amazing. I'm graced for it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What do you tap into? You probably might have just touched it, but what do you tap into when you're sitting down to write music, worship music? You've written for several other artists as well as yourself. Is it where do you go to? Do you always go to that place of where you used to be and how God got you out? Like where are you drawing from when you sit down to write these songs?
Yeah, I draw from that place. I also draw from other people's places. Mm-hmm. I'm very close to my friends. I have the same friends that I've had for the last 10 years. And I'll draw from their stories a lot of times and what they're going through. And sometimes, for the most part, to be honest, I feel like this is the most honest interview I've ever had, to be honest.
So love it.
This is great. This is actually the most honest interview I've ever had. But sometimes I just sit down and I just think about him. It doesn't have to do anything with me. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
It's like sometimes I just think about, I don't know, like when you look at nature and when you look at, their friends and your family, your church, and like, even when you look at the world and like darkness and you think about how God is moving. I don't know. I don't have to think about testimony stuff. I can just think about who he is.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. That's amazing.
For the most part, that's what I do. I just think about his nature and I write about his nature.
That's so good. You're a part of Old Church Basement, and it made history. Congratulations. You with Maverick City and Elevation Worship. This is like anywhere I go, anyone I talk to, what are you listening to? That's what they're listening to. Why do you think this is resonating with people so much, especially our generation? And, there's just something that's, some people are like, they came out of nowhere. These people came out of nowhere, but it's like, this is the soundtrack to 2021 now,
Yeah, making that record felt like building a rocket. It felt like doing something that was going to change the world. Like you build a rocket and someone goes to space. It's like this whole thing in news stations and everyone's broadcasting it.
Yeah.
making this record felt that way. And the people that were writing these songs, you know, me and Chandler and Naomi, Aaron Moses, Joel Barnes, Chris Brown, and Brandon Lake. I'm missing people. Tiffany, Amanda Cook. All of us, like we love people so much. We love people more than anything. It's like God and his people. And I feel like when we start writing songs, we just think about God and people. And I sometimes I'm scared when we write songs because it's so pure and like we mean it for real. And like even stuff that the cameras don't catch, like on Talking to Jesus, how we just all on the floor, or like Naomi and Brandon's song. We're just literally on the floor for real. There's video that we cut it off of the album, but it's like we are encountering him as well so much. Like it's like we didn't write the songs.
Wow.
Because we're encountering them as well. So it's not, you know, I knew making this album was going to break records and do something crazy because I'm like, there's no way it can't. I'm like, these songs are so real. When we say my friend Josh bought a cheap guitar, he wasn't putting on a show, wasn't well known, wasn't trying to be famous, but we sure touch heaven from that old church basement. It's like, those are real stories. You know what I mean? Yeah. When Brandon talked about, you know, when Stephen Furtick's son coming in the room, seeing him praying to God, and he was struggling, and Stephen was like, you know, come and give it a try. And now we're talking to Jesus. It's like, these are stories that, you know, I feel like creation's been waiting on, you know, and it's not squeaky clean rainbow stuff. It's like, I've seen it in a hospital room when the doctor said, sorry, there's nothing more we can do. I'm going to wait on you. Even like, that's the worst thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like I'm emotional today. I don't know. Being super honest with you. I guess your spirit. I don't know. Maybe it's your spirit.
I'm honored.
That's probably what it is.
I'm honored. Well, praise God. It's God breathed.
That's why we made the album. I feel like,
it's God breathed, which was, let me ask you this, because I feel like a lot of people are struggling. You guys said you love God and you love people, right? Mm-hmm. The people part is hard. Mm-hmm. How do you, you know, even with everything you've been through, just in your life, and, you know, church hurt alone destroys people, you know, and their faith in other people. How do you continue to love God and love people? I mean, God is easy. I get that. Mm-hmm. How do you continue to love people the way you do? Because that's is what we're called. That's a good question.
Yeah. I was abused in the church. I was molested in the church for years. And so, you know, I had to like navigate that early, like as a kid, like that, like, you know, that the thing in your brain that's like the decision maker. I didn't even have that at that age. You know, it doesn't develop till later. Yeah. And so I was making those decisions, you know, at 10, whether I was going to be, you know, one of those guys that's like, forget the church, I have nothing to do with that, or say, you know, there's no way this is like God. And for some reason, I knew, I'm like, that's not God. Mm-hmm. And he's not like that. And that's evil. And like, I could decipher, you know, and that was hard. That was a journey. But I will say where I am now, why is it so easy? I'll say this, like loving God is easier than people, but to me now, loving people is easy when you can acknowledge your own flaws. Mm-hmm. Like when you can acknowledge, you know, I get a little snappy sometimes. That person is snappy. When you can acknowledge, like, oh, I remember when I didn't know the Lord, and you know, with the Little Nas X thing. Oh, we getting off. I don't know if I get in trouble. Anyway, the Little Nas X thing, I'm like, man, that was crazy. But I'm like, man, he doesn't know, you know, he doesn't know what we know, you know, and it's like, it's like, hey, you can have grace. Cause it's like, man, I remember when I was, you know, I didn't have any regard for the church, any regard for Christianity, any regard for that. And you just extend that grace. My pastor, Lau Phillips, he always says, for him that has been given much, he gives much. And that's what I think we do. We've been given way too much. The Lord has been so gracious. Look at you. I can tell that you're a woman of just favor and you've been blessed. And it's like,
Mm.
why not extend that to other people and be like, I've been so blessed by God. I've been so favored by him and graced, even in seasons where I didn't deserve it. I'm going to give that to you. And so
Yeah.
that's how I kind of like see people now. I see them through the lens of, of where I am and also where I used to be, and where God is bringing me into. And I know it's hard to navigate. And so
Right.
yeah, I
That's
think we need to be a
awesome.
lot more gentle with people, a lot more nice.
Yeah. And true, I think a lot of people aren't gentle with themselves, which is why they're not gentle with others.
That's that's it. That's the root. It's loving yourself for real.
Right.
I love that Jesus says, love your neighbor like you love yourself, indicating that you can't even love yourself. I mean, love your neighbor if you can't love yourself. You know what I mean? You
Right.
can't love your neighbor if you can't love yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people don't love their neighbor like they love themselves because they can't love themselves, or they don't rather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Dante, I thank you so much for your honesty. I thank you for your heart. Your music is amazing. What do you want people to walk away with from listening to Circles or Old Church Basement or any of the amazing songs that you've put out?
What do I want people to get? I mean, I hope that they feel like running a marathon after they listen to my music. I hope people feel like getting up, washing their face, putting on some clothes, and actually going out and accomplishing something, and not being mopey, not being sad, not being depressed, not
Yeah.
being. I hope it kills depression. That's what I hope my
Yes.
music does.
Amen. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you. It's been great.